Is anybody in the room today who's here for the very, very first time? Okay, you guys stand up. We want to have a look at you. Whoa. Lots of you. Oh, congratulations to you. Thank you for being with us, and particularly those of you that are with us for the first time, that are sat in the front here having done 5 CCs for the first time. That's a fantastic achievement. You know, the 4 CCs is the foundation of our business, the building block of our business. And when we launched the 5cc incentive, we thought, you know what, it's 1 cc extra, but actually it's 20% more business. And there are many of our countries around the world that, even though we only need to do 4 cc to qualify for our team leading bonus, they have in many countries 5 cc pins. And that might be something you want to think about for your own team. Not necessarily the pin, but the concept of not just doing the bare minimum of 4, but making it 5. And imagine the impact of that through your team over the years if everybody signs up for 5 rather than 4. So we're really proud of your achievements. For those of you who've qualified to be here today at that 5 cc level, you exceeded our expectations actually when we set the incentive with the leadership team back in October, November time. We estimated how many we would get, and we in fact got double what we thought we would get. There's 1,800, I think, or 2,000 ID numbers that qualified for 5cc, which is brilliant. And for those of you that did qualify at 5cc, recognizing that there was around 2,000 ID numbers that did that, I want you to think about the potential, because there are 65 million people or thereabouts in our country. And often I'm told by guests or new FBOs that it's difficult because everybody knows about Forever. And yet we've only got 2,000 people who did 5 CCs. I would suggest to you that there's a growing number of people who perhaps have heard of Forever, but there's not that many people engaged with Forever. There's not that many people using Forever's products. And evidence of that is the number of people that's qualified. So I see this as a fantastic opportunity for us to continue to grow and to put Forever on the map over the coming years. Yesterday we heard lots and lots of really powerful testimonials, as we always do. I've been going to Success Days now for, I think this is my 23rd year. My first one is in May 1994, when there was a very small group of us, nowhere near what we have today. And for me, over the years, some of the most impactful messages that I've received from Success Days have not just been from the trainings, which are always excellent. Sometimes they've been moments where we've heard from some of the people that we're recognizing on the stage. Those of you who were here yesterday, I was really touched by the lady in the wheelchair that we recognized as supervisor. Anybody relate to that? You know, I'm thinking, you know, it's hard sometimes to build a business, you know, when you've got everything going for you, but if you're in a wheelchair, it must be even more difficult. I thought what courage she showed, and we saw her just before Christmas when the VIPs were over in December, in fact, and she told us she was going to be on stage, and true to her word, she was here yesterday. Something else that touched me yesterday amongst the testimonials was one of the ladies who said that one of the main benefits that she'd had as a result of becoming an FBO and having to step outside of her comfort zone was that she was much more confident now as a person. And she said, actually, you know, going back just a few short months before I joined Forever, I didn't even have the confidence to pick up the phone and order a takeaway. Now, you know, when we talk to guests, we might talk about some of the benefits of joining Forever. I think that's one of the benefits that's hardest to describe, isn't it? That you'll grow as a person. But the truth is, you know, whilst we're the world's biggest aloe vera grower, I actually think we're one of the world's biggest grower of people too. And for me, that's reflected time after time at Success Days. And it's all because somebody had the courage to do something different. And that person's on the screen now. Many of you have met Rex. I hope you'll all meet Rex one day, and I hope you'll all get some time to chat with Rex, because he is probably the most amazing person I've ever met. But when you hear his story of the courage it took to start Forever Living, and you hear the courage that it took at many different stages in the Forever journey when sometimes the business struggled. It struggled in the early days, for example, because almost all of our crop was wiped out by frost. And Rex and the family had to dig deep in their pockets, and that must have taken a lot of courage. Even starting Forever by quitting what was a very serious corporate role that he had in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the youngest vice presidents actually for a property development company. Can you imagine what his friends and family said when he told them he was quitting his job to start selling a wacky cactus juice? He tells that story of the feedback that he got from his friends and family. Some was positive, of course. We have supported his friends and family, but a lot of it was like, you're doing what? Wouldn't you just love to get that group of people together now? All those people who said it wouldn't work, it couldn't happen, that he was crazy for doing it. Of course, now you know that he's been recognized several times as one of the wealthiest individuals in the USA. So that courage was well worth it. And we heard lots and lots of stories yesterday of courage. We heard lots of stories yesterday, and in particular David Urch's slot, where we talk about the power of our product range. We heard lots of stories yesterday of people changing their lives as a result of the really powerful trends that we have. It's always easier to build an enterprise when the trends are moving in the right direction. And for us, they are massively. They are around the product, as we have an aging population, but more and more of us wanting to try and stay as fit and healthy as we can into our older years. And we have so many people involved with Forever who put their good health down to the fact that they've been taking our product for a lot of years. I think that very many of us that have been doing this for a long time would all say that even if we weren't involved with Forever for some reason, and I can't ever imagine that would be the case, but even if we weren't, we would still want to take very many of the products that we've taken for a long time. Very many people come into Forever as a result of the power of the products. And if you're here for the first time today, perhaps still evaluating whether this is a business for you, that's a significant factor, that this is a company that's been developing products for nearly 40 years that people get a strong emotional attachment to, and they'll come back time after time after time for those products. We heard yesterday a great deal about the leadership team. We announced our new leadership team yesterday. Their pictures are on the screen. Very many of them trained yesterday. Very many of them are training today. We heard their stories, and at the end of the day yesterday we had a question and answer session where they were all sat on chairs and you guys asked questions of them. And one of the questions that was asked was, had any of them ever thought of quitting? They all said they had at some stage, because when you're changing your life, when you're touching the lives of others, when you're doing something that perhaps is slightly different to the norm, you can get some criticism sometimes, and you can sometimes doubt yourself. I'm really proud that we've got a very strong leadership team here in the UK, and that we have a leadership team that share best practice, not just with each other, but with all of us. I can't imagine, well, I know that there are not that many companies, if any, that you would have a day like today, for example, where leaders share best practice with everybody, whether they're in their downline or not. This is a significant difference that Forever has compared to lots and lots of other companies in our industry. One of the key messages that came across yesterday was the power of our thought. And all of our leaders, in fact, everybody who spoke yesterday said, you need to get a strong belief. You need to work on your mindset more than you work on anything else. The quote on the screen here, Henry Ford, whether you think you can and whether you think you can't, you're absolutely right. Because when you think about it, the opportunity that we have is equal for all of us. We all have the same range of products to market. We all have the same marketing plan to work with. We all have the same set of negative friends and family around us. So the difference that makes the difference is how we think about that opportunity. There will be times when you doubt yourself. When you've invited a person to a meeting and they don't show up. When you've sponsored somebody into your business and within a day or two they get kidnapped by aliens, and yet you thought they were going to be the next diamond manager. Or you don't have any aliens by you? Oh, we have stacks around the Midlands, I tell you. And you know, in the early days, that can be really, really challenging. Even in the later days, it's challenging. But in the early days, we begin to think, well, yeah, I can see that person can do it, and I can see this person's successful, but will it work for me? Well, the message that came across loud and clear yesterday was that it will work for me. It might take sometimes a little longer than somebody else. In fact, somebody said yesterday, or intimated yesterday, success days are great for looking at other people's success and getting inspired by that success, but never compare yourself to somebody else. Because everybody has a different set of parameters. They have a different number of hours to apply to their business. They apply those hours in different ways. They have a different skill set when they get started. Some people come with a skill set that's already ready for the type of business that we have. Others have to learn that skill set. Some people come carrying more baggage than others. It's amazing. John Curtis said yesterday, actually, it's amazing how many of us will take advice from somebody who's not qualified to give us advice. I've told this story before, but some of you knew. You know, some years ago, I was catching a train from London to Leeds to go to a meeting. I was early. I went in the coffee station in the Virgin Lounge in London there, and I'm drinking some coffee. I've got my laptop out, got some documents out on the table, some Forever brochures. The guy collecting the cups comes around to me, he stops, he goes, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "I hope you don't mind me asking." He said, "Is that Forever Living material you got on the table?" I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Are you involved with them?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "You're doing any good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm doing okay, thanks very much." He said, "Well, you know, those things, don't you love it when they call it a thing? Those things, if you don't get in them early, you'll never make any money." Okay, and that is a myth that exists around our industry, of course. I always think it's better to get in later when they've proven themselves. But anyway, we had this conversation, and, you know, we left on good terms, and I caught the train. But as I'm on the train going to Leeds, I'm thinking, you know what, for me, with all the years' experience I have in the business, that type of conversation doesn't affect my belief or my confidence in the business or my confidence in myself. But if I'd have been a new person who perhaps had been in the London centre that evening, got excited at the opportunity meeting, bought a box, got started with my new business, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. On the way home, I decided to buy a pint of Guinness in the pub. They're celebrating my new business, and next to me is your man. Imagine that. That could have just taken the wind right out of my sails. So belief, having that positive mindset, was one of the key messages yesterday, because where we are in life is a result of the thoughts that we've had. And if we want to move forward in life, as is the message at our success days, our business opportunity meeting, it says, change your thinking to change your life. So become more aware would be my tip of what you're thinking. Are you thinking positive thoughts about your future, about yourself, or are they negative thoughts? Because belief is a major, major tool to our success. Building a strong belief around our product. You will have people say to you that our aloe gel doesn't taste too nice. Hard to believe, I know, but it happens. Guess what? Whether you're in the business 10 minutes or 10 years, you're still going to get the 100 quid on a round of drinks for his mates. So, my message to you is, it doesn't matter what somebody says about the product, it's about what you think about the product. And if you're a strong believer in the product because you use the product, it doesn't matter, it works. You need to build a strong belief in our company. And these events are brilliant for that, because you see lots of success, you see lots of people achieving things. So, become absorbed, become involved with the company. It's really, really hard to have a belief in something when you're sat at home by yourself. It's no accident or coincidence that all the people I see build a business, a strong business, I meet them when I go to opportunity meetings. I meet them when I come to success days. They recognize the power of the day in helping them build belief. Start to build a stronger belief, if you haven't already got it, in our industry. Because again, you'll have people suggest this is a scam, it's a cult, it's all sorts of different things. And sometimes they don't mean that in an offensive way. They just don't know how else to describe an industry that's still in its pioneering stage. One of my neighbours is a farmer, and we had a social event in the summer. I'm chatting to him. I haven't seen him that much apart to wave to him in his tractor. And so he introduced himself to me. He said, "My name's Matt." He said, "I know you're Bob." He said, "But do you know what they call you around the village?" I said, no idea, mate, I dread to think. He said, they call you the Aloe Man. I said, okay, that's not too bad. I thought it would be worse than that. He said, anyway, how high up that pyramid are you? So then we had a conversation about that. Now I concluded that he didn't mean it in an offensive way, he just didn't know how else to describe our business. So get comfortable with our business. Ours is one of the few industries that ordinary people can join to do extraordinary things. If you were starting a conventional business in health and well-being, it would have cost you a lot more than 199 quid. And there'd be no money back guarantees on anything, whether you bought a franchise or whether you started a conventional business. Our industry allows the likes of you and I to get into business for ourselves and do something extraordinary. So start to build that confidence. And the fourth area of belief is the hardest area of belief perhaps for some of us, and that is to believe that we could actually do this. Now, if I've had a successful career, built successful businesses in the past, and I come into a new business, I've already got a track record of belief that's positive. If I've never been in business for myself before, which is the vast majority of people that you will sponsor, then they will have an expectation of their worth. And the chances are that that expectation of their worth has been determined by what somebody else has decided to pay them so far. Would that be fair? You know, research suggests that if you decide to move your job, for example, and currently you're on 30 or 40 or 50,000 a year, doesn't matter what it is, the chances are you'll be applying for jobs that are a similar amount of pay, maybe a little bit more, but it's unlikely that if you're on 50 grand a year, you'll apply for a job that's paying 150 grand a year. Now, sometimes that's because you don't fit the list perhaps of the requirements, but it's also because you can't see yourself earning the 150 grand a year. Does that make sense? So for us here, it's about having that strong belief in ourselves that if they can do it, and that's the power of a success day, then I can do it. And it's not always going to be easy. I've stolen one of Juliana's slides from yesterday because I thought it was a brilliant example of self-belief. Well, I'm glad I thought it was good anyway. You lot seem like... I've got a cat at home, see, so... What matters most is how you see yourself, and more importantly, start to see yourself as somebody who can do, who can change, who can build something, who can be the next whatever you want to be. Get that vision of what's possible for you in the future. There was a lot of talk of vision yesterday, a lot of talk of finding your why yesterday, more than one testimonial. In fact, several testimonials said, you know, I decided to decide because I've got a very strong why. It was my kids, and we had some kids on stage yesterday. In Scotland a few weeks ago when we had the success day there, somebody talked about they had a really strong why because their husband worked in the oil industry and she didn't see him for months because he was away working. She said, I want to make enough money to get my husband back at home all the time. If you have a strong driver or a strong why, then it'll work as long as you work on that belief area. I found a good little clip the other day because, you know, when you're making this journey, when you're trying to be different, when your friends look at you, you know, they look at you in a different way because you're not doing the norm. John talks about the norm. John Curtis yesterday, the 40-year plan, how we stay in a job for 40 years and retire broke. You know, when you step outside of that world, a lot of people who are still in that world look at you and go, you know, what's so special about you? Or that's too risky. I found a great little clip that talks about, you know, you need to be tough because it is tough. And if you can become tough and recognize that if it's going to be, it's up to you, then, you know, you can change your life and you can make things different.